everyone. Thanks for watching. In this video, we're going to talk about carbohydrates and the incredible misuse of the word. I hear so many say that they're going on a low-carb diet, and I am just going to say a few words, and then Doug is going to explain carbohydrates. I think of my food more as like monosaccharides versus polysaccharides. Polysaccharides being a long chain of sugar that is very difficult to break down. You know, you put your body at a need for insulin. Most of these, they're dormant foods. And so I just eat foods that are complementary to the body and that give my body energy and you know, hear better, see better, smell better, taste better, and I even like to say think better. So anyway, Doug, teach us about carbohydrates.
All right, carbohydrates, also known as carbon hydrates. Within every cell of the body you have carbon, also known as DNA, and what carbon hydrates do is they deliver, carbon is the vehicle for hydrogen to be delivered into the cell to bring moisture into the cell, and then these hydrogen molecules, they speed up and they vibrate and they create energy. Yes, we technically run off hydrogen, but carbohydrates are the primary vehicle for delivering hydrogen and oxygen as well. And so I've got some points I'm just going to hit. Main source of fuel for the brain, pretty much the only source of fuel for the brain, is glucose, or a simple sugar. Your brain has glycogen reserves just as your muscles do, so your brain is designed to run off simple sugar. And on that note too, fatty acids cannot even pass the blood-brain barrier. There's a lot of hocus pocus about eating fats to fuel your brain. So essentially the body, the brain, runs on sugar. So do the more functional muscles in the body, the fast twitch type A and type 2B muscles run on creatine and glucose, or stored glycogen. And so simple sugars are very, very important for the body. And on that note, like Candy's saying, there's a huge misnomer and just a very broad spectrum of carbohydrates, like all the way from white flour and these white refined products to nourishing, mucusless, water-rich fruits. And so what we're talking about today is the difference between these, and like what is the spectrum, and which of these carbohydrates are complementary for our body. To start, like Candy's saying, these polysaccharides are held together by starch. Starch is a binding agent. They use starch to spray on pants as a stiffening agent at the laundromat. It's literally a form of water-soluble glue, or a water-soluble protein that holds these sugars together. It's highly mucus-forming, water-soluble, so it turns to mucus in hydrogen or water inside of our body. It's very irritating on the mucosa membrane, which is also the blood-brain barrier. So when we're eating refined carbohydrates or polysaccharides such as white rice, white potatoes, white flour, white bread, white sugar, all of these are acid forming, irritating the mucous membrane in the intestine, and then also destroying the blood-brain barrier, or the mucous membrane, to the brain. So it's compromising both the gut and the brain. So this has a lot to do with different forms of mental illness. And I will say the mucusless, more simple sugars are going to be stored in the body. There's like a huge misnomer too that the reason why we should be consuming starch is because it gives us sustainable energy that we can burn over a longer period of time. Well, I found that to totally not be true. What I have found is that starch, stops or halts the detoxification process, and so we may feel better, but our body runs off glycogen. Glycogen is stored sugar in the muscle. So no matter whether we're eating a piece of fruit or eating white rice actually digests fast. A better example might be, a white potato. The body's going to process that and then store that sugar, that glucose is glycogen in the muscles. So it's kind of like a fuel tank. We can refill that fuel tank with simple, nourishing, mucusless, hydrating fruits, or we can, fill that fuel tank with mucus forming, irritating, starch-based products. White, pale foods are lifeless. If we look at anything in nature, it has color. Fruits have color. Every human being, hue meaning color, has color. It's in the name. And so when we come across foods that are devoid of color, they're devoid of life. So what they're going to do is they're going to take life from us. So these foods that are polysaccharides, I'm particularly or mainly speaking on the white refined carbohydrates, because those are like those are the killers. These are taking life from people. There's an experiment that Arnold Ehret talks about where he would cook food and then basically get to see how it's processed and how it breaks down. So for example, when we cook white rice and we let it sit out on the counter for just a short period of time, it turns to like a brick. It is full of gluten or glue, water-soluble proteins, acid forming, and these just coagulate and they just impair the digestion within the body. They cause constipation from experience, from decades of experience. I'm a veteran. And so, I definitely recommend you guys, do the same experiment. Try it out with oatmeal, try it out with, rice. A great one that I would do would be taking any form of bread really, and then, getting it wet and then mushing it in your hand and letting it sit out. It's, white bread especially, it's gonna get gluey and just slimy and nasty. It's not gonna break down very well. And then, on the flip side of that, you can take it and you can actually cook out all the gluten or there's more than just gluten. There's other water-soluble proteins. There's actually a whole list of them. But what it does is it breaks down these gluey properties. And so when we put well-done toast in that water, it's just gonna break down and crumble. And so these, binding agents or these, acid-forming proteins are totally uncomplimentary for the body. But yeah, and then going back to just carbohydrates in general, in chemistry, if you look at how we're designed, everything has a carbon backbone, or every bit of our chemistry is carbon based or has a carbon backbone with just chains of different types of minerals to create different types of tissue. And so what we want to do is we want to hydrate this carbon, because carbon is what carries and stores life. Carbon is DNA. Carbon is mitochondrial DNA. And so we want to consume foods that are high in liquid and high in fiber so we can actually, hydrate. The word carbohydrates, and then there's this whole other spectrum of carbs that are totally dehydrating for the body. It's just, it's misinformation. Once again, there's a lot of misinformation out there. The most important thing, or the most fundamental aspect of our body is hydrogen. It's water, and so we want to hydrate it with carbohydrates, because fundamentally we are hydrogen-based beings. Just look at any cell in biology, look at the planet itself, everything's hydrogen-based. And let's see if there's anything comes to me really quickly. Yeah, like I said, our like fast twitch muscles are explosive. Where we get power, here's one thing, you know, check out different athletes. What I have found from my personal research is the most powerful, the most explosive, and the highest performing athletes are high carb athletes. Hands down, 100%, because our fast twitch muscles run on glucose. And so if we're on, say, like a paleo diet or a low carb diet, we're just not gonna have the power and the explosiveness and the fuel that our body is designed to run on. And it doesn't leave a ton of residue. It's not highly acid forming. It's, you know, the most complementary form of fuel for the body. Candy?
When people say that they're on a low carb diet, is that the same thing? Years ago I heard of this Atkins diet. You know, I was working for a group of cardiologists. I know when that was kind of peaking or still popular, and one of the cardiologists was even following it, but it looked like he was consuming a lot of dead animal and eggs and that kind of thing.
Totally. Robert Atkins, low carb diet. There's always a different type of a low carb diet. It's a government backed diet because the meat and dairy industry, the pharmaceutical mafia, all of these different entities really want you to consume animal products. They really want you to, you know, consume the cholesterol and the fats that cause diabetes. You know, diabetes is not caused by sugar. I mean, there are so many studies now showing that it's the fats and the cholesterol that are, you know, causing the plaque buildup on the arteries, and then that leaves the sugars unable to enter the cell. Definitely consult like a detoxification practitioner or somebody that's knowledgeable on a regenerative lifestyle before just jumping in, because it is kind of a sensitive transition just due to the compromised condition of the body. I know I've definitely worked with people who have effectively eliminated their type 1, you know, diabetes. And so it's pretty simple, I'd say. I mean, it's like one of the fastest things that can be reversed that's, you know, diagnosed as a disease or, you know, whatever. And yeah, Robert Atkins, you know, low carber, died of like heart disease or something. You can check him out. He's very unhealthy. He, yeah, like I said, passed away at a young age. And now there's the replacement for the Atkins diet, which is the paleo diet. Just another name for it. They kind of shifted things around just a little bit, you know, keeping it like whole foods versus like incorporating like the junk, like the hot dogs and stuff. So they cleaned it up a little bit, but essentially it's just like a cleaner Atkins diet. And then there's, you know, other diets that are low carb, and you can actually look up the doctors that created them and backed them, and see how they passed away from heart disease, heart attacks at relatively young ages. So the proof's in the pudding, and that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
Trust your body. Thanks for watching.
Time to go eat some watermelon.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. And before we hop off, would you like to let them know where they can find the PDF you wrote and how they can also get a hold of you if they would like to work with you?
Sure. Just released my very first PDF book. The title is A Beginning Guide to Regenerative Detoxification. You can find a link on how to get your copy down below for only $4.99. And my website is truenaturalhealing.com. And I would love to help anyone that I can. How can I help? Because I've done it. I have done it, and I've done it again and again and again. You know, I mean, there's been things that I've worked myself off of a few times. And starch being one of those things. So anyway, yeah, thanks for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Have a great day.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Stay tuned.